Rev up your engines!
Here we go. If you don't believe me, you know I'm telling the truth. GM is going to have to replace the 8-speed automatic transmissions in some 2021 Silverados and GMC Sierras. So 2021, these are brand new trucks and they already have to replace the transmissions. It just shows you the crap quality that General Motors has been putting out. Now, if you remember, they had that 10-speed automatic transmission that they designed in conjunction with Ford, and that itself has had problems, and that made GM and Ford say, we'll never do another combined job again like we did with that 10-speed transmission. And GM decided to make their own 8-speed. Well, guess what? Their 8-speeds didn't come out too good either. They're having to replace the entire transmissions. Now, these are Chevy Silverado 1500s and GMC Sierra 1500s that are made in 2021. It turns out they might have a broken reactor carrier ring that is inside the transmission, and their fix is to replace the entire transmission. As they say, their fix is dealers will replace the entire 8-speed automatic transmission with a new one. Well, of course, they have to do it free. They're brand new vehicles in the transmission. Imagine what these things are going to be like when they get to be 4 or 5 years old. If the brand new ones are breaking, they got to replace the transmission. That's why I say, stay away from that stuff. You value your money, don't buy one of those. The weird thing, though, is the 1500 Silverados, I told people, don't buy modern ones. They're no good. But if you go up to the 2500 heavy-duty trucks, they're actually quite good. You can get Allison automatic transmissions in them. They're actually really well made. But the 1500s, no. They've gone to, back in the day, even back in 2000, 2002, they were still making pretty good trucks, the 1500s, but not anymore. Could you imagine you buy a brand new truck and they say, oh, we have to replace the transmission? It'd make you wonder, well, how long is that going to last one? If this one didn't even last half a year, how long is it going to last when you put another one in? Just amazes me the lack of quality with these clowns. Now, here's a crazy one in my old hometown of Houston. You can now rent your car out for extra income. There's a website called Turo, T-U-R-O, where you can list your car and you can rent it out. Now, Turo uses Liberty Mutual, and the price of the insurance is part of the rental when they rent your car. But the company that actually does the renting for you is called Avail, where you give them the car and then they rent it out to people. There's a guy in Houston that has 3 cars he rents out this way. A 2018 Range Rover, a Z06 Corvette, and a Mercedes-Benz S-Class. So he's renting out relatively expensive vehicles. And he claims that in some weeks he'd make $2,500 to $3,500. And if you book his car for a whole week, he gets $3,000 for it. They also have cheaper cars too, like a Nissan Versa goes for $32 a day, but you can get a McLaren, the fancy English car, for $1,200 a day. So it's kind of like Airbnb for cars. Well, all I gotta say is, there's no way I'm gonna have a car and then I'm gonna let somebody else rent it. They'll destroy it. Can you imagine? You rent somebody a McLaren, the super fast car, even if it's $1,200 a day, they might wrap it around a tree, or even if they don't wreck it, they're gonna be driving the heck out of it, wear out the engine and transmission. And I mean, it's your car, so you rent it out to somebody else. Well, why did you buy the car in the first place? If you're doing Uber, you're driving the car, you're taking people around, taking care of your car, you can talk to the people. Can you imagine just giving the keys to a rental company, say, here, rent my car out? Whoo-wee. I remember watching a show last year. This guy had this gigantic ship. It was almost part submarine. It would go down. And what they did was they floated yachts in it, and then they take the yachts to way over to Europe, to the Mediterranean, and people would rent their yachts by the day, week, month, and they get money out of the yacht. Well, why'd they buy a yacht in the first place if they're going to send it all the way over there to rent it? I guess if you really want to rent a McLaren for $1,200 and drive the heck out of it and get it out of your system, it's not yours. If the engine blows up, what the heck? It's the other guy's problem. If I owned one, I sure as heck wouldn't rent it out to people. But that's the world these days, you know. People come up with any kind of crazy ideas to try to make money. Here we go. Now that Peugeot, Fiat, Chrysler, one company, Peugeot said that they're not going to be bringing their cars to the United States. And they're going to stress more Alfa Romeo. What I say is, ha! 2 crappy cars. What difference does it make? People were thinking, oh, maybe they'll bring Peugeots back. They left decades ago. They have been selling Alfa Romeos in the United States, but it's kind of a joke anyway. Alfa Romeo left the United States in the mid-1990s when they were only selling 5,000 cars or less a year. But they came back in 2014 when, of course, Fiat bought Chrysler. And in 2017, they sold a whopping 12,031 cars. So does it really matter if they bring it to the United States and push it. They're not very good cars. Everybody who knows cars knows that Alfa Romeos are one of the most unreliable cars ever made in the history of mankind. Now, they were fast and zippy and everything, but the things would fall apart in front of your very eyes. I had customers with them, and I would just laugh. Why did you buy that thing? Oh, it's beautiful. So are roses, but you can't ride them around. They're going to die quickly. You can look at them. I guess you could treat an Alfa Romeo as roses, only it lasts longer than roses if it just sits there. It just amazes me, the nonsense that these people try to revive this name, Alfa Romeo, that name here, with great sports cars 40 years ago or 50 years ago. The Japanese have passed them by a long time ago. And they make a big news like, oh, well, we're going to push that instead of Peugeot. Well, I guess it's maybe the worst of two evils. I don't know. 12,000 cars a year. They sold in 2017 in the United States, the Alfa Romeo. So it's not that it really matters to anything. They're already pretty much pulling the Fiats out of the United States. The other year, they sold like 1,500 Fiat 500s. They pulled them out. I just find the whole thing comical. DJ Falcon says, I got a 98 DeVille with a 4-liter North Star V8. It has a misfire. We changed the spark plugs, and it still has a misfire. We thought it was a head gasket, but the test came back negative. See where the misfires are first. If it's 1 or 2 cylinders, swap those ignition coils with other coils. It could just be bad coils. They don't cost much. Pray it's that. Now, you said the test came back negative for a blown head gasket. Here's the problem with the testing and the problem with those North Star engines. Those 98s had nothing but problems with the head gaskets blowing. Head gaskets, if they blow between the compression ring and the water jacket, that where the water runs through to cool it, then the test will show the fluid will change from blue to yellow. You know, the head gasket's blown between the head gasket where the pistons go up and down and the oil cooling jackets. But they can also blow between the piston pressure and the oil cooler. And if it goes between that and the engine where the oil goes, forget it. It isn't going to come in the test when you test the radiator because the fumes are going in the oil, not in the engine. I would just about guarantee you the head gasket's blowing on that thing because they're notorious for that. And unfortunately, no test is 100% accurate because the head gaskets can blow in many different ways. Just between the cooling and the pistons, yeah, that'll show up with that test, but it won't show up with a test. For that, what you do is pay a mechanic like me who has a machine that measures carbon dioxide, and you would stick it in the oil dipstick. And then if it showed there's a bunch of carbon dioxide in there, that would mean that it's coming in through the oil system, and it was blown that way. But I can just about guarantee you the head gasket's blowing. Those engines were garbage, and it's a 98. You can just about guarantee you the head gasket's blowing if it's got a bunch of misfires. Poorly designed engines as they age, and they cost a fortune to repair. Villa Jose 17 says, I got a 99 Ford F-250, 5.4 V8. It only turns off when I put it in reverse. It runs fine in drive. I had the mechanic fill the fluid and worked about a day. I had the gasket replaced and it doesn't leak any fluid. I can just about guarantee you what's wrong. You're saying it doesn't stall in drive, but it stalls in reverse. There's 2 pumps inside that pump the fluid, the transmission fluid. The front pump is probably going out. That's the one that really fills the reverse gear. It only does it when you back up and not when you go forward. Front pump operates the reverse one. That means the back pump's still working. You're going to have to pull the transmission off, rebuild it, costs a small fortune. But on the other hand, in drive, just park so you don't have to back up so you can always go forwards. I think I do that and drove it 5 years that way. It was still going on the road because you're going to have to take transmission apart to fix that. That's a very expensive job. But if it only does it in reverse and not in forward, do like my customer is. Always park it so he's pointed out where he can drive out. 7.3 Punch-In says, I'm going to an auto parts store. How can I pick which one to go to? A Napa? AutoZone, O'Reilly, CarQuest, Advance, Walmart? Well, here's how you can. Basically, find which one have the nicest people that treat you right, give you the best price, and have the most quality parts. Realize almost all discount auto parts, they buy from very similar places. They don't make their own batteries. O'Reilly doesn't make their own batteries. AutoZone, they buy them from other companies. Do a little research and see which company makes which your best. All discount auto parts stuffs, they're very similar. They generally pay their workers very low wages, and the managers make a decent money, but they really got to work their butts off. So my advice, if you go in, talk to the manager. Say, I'd like to talk to the manager and explain, I want to do business here all the time, but I got questions, and stick to the manager. They generally know what they're doing at those places. Any discount auto parts stores, it doesn't really matter. And they're all competing to each other in terms of prices. A lot of times, let's say you go to an AutoZone, you say, well, the O'Reilly was selling me this for that. They'll generally match prices. So you don't really have to worry about running all over the place. Just use your phone and say, well, they got this same thing here for this, and they would generally match prices. You can go by about it that way. Like I said, it depends on which ones in your area are well run and which one has employees that are friendly. Some are very friendly, some are very obnoxious. And even the same store, different times of day. There might be a guy who works in the morning who's real friendly, but then the guy who got to do the night shift is grouchy. So you got to do a little research on that one. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.